The H1B guy here, and today the H1B guy reports on leaving the H1B life in the US for merit based immigration in Australia. Before we get started, I would like to ask every one of you who's taken the time to click on this video, if you're not already, please go ahead and subscribe to the H1B guy channel here on YouTube. It helps me to continue to produce more content like this for you. So today I want to tell you a story about a really good friend of mine who I had the chance to catch up with last week. And back in 2017, he decided that enough was enough. He had lived in the US for 12 years, was on his third perm labor certification, three different I-140 approvals with three different employers, and really no end in sight. So he decided to consider what his other options were. He had a priority date of April 2012 that was certified under EB2. But even back in 2017, he was still looking at an additional 10 to 12 years before a final action date. So, this individual's credentials include an MBA in international business, a bachelor's of engineering and computer science, multiple industry certifications, and 16 years of enterprise software development and architecture experience. I can tell you that with no uncertainty at all and 100% confidence that this individual is within the top 1,000 Java-based software architects in the world. I'd bet my career on that. His technology stack, as I mentioned, is Java, AWS, Spring, and really working with the latest and greatest technologies that are available. He spent his entire career working for Fortune 50 to Fortune 500 corporations, with a few tech startups sprinkled in for good measure. After the election in 2016, he saw the writing on the wall. With the new administration's policies, he decided to take matters into his own hands. Began researching what are his options, and really looking and weighing, what is next for him and his family. He decided that merit-based immigration was the best choice. So he really began to evaluate, looking at Australia, Canada, and New Zealand specifically. After doing his research, he decided to apply for Australia and Canada and eliminating New Zealand based on the cost of living. He was able to go through the entire application process for both Australia and Canada on his own. No advice, neither an attorney or a friend. Basically did all of the research, did all of the application process all on his own. Said that the process took a few weekends to apply for both Australia and Canada, but you could most likely do one in a weekend after you've done your research. Finally, they decided on Australia for its climate and its proximity to their country of origin. He was able to get everything in order and be approved in 90 days. Once the background was approved and once the medical checks were cleared, then he was given full authorization. Going back to the merit-based point system and what that looks like for Australia. Well, the criteria very similar to what we discussed on the H1B guy researches merit-based immigration systems last week. The criteria includes weighted value for age, qualifications, including experience and education, an English examination, and any potential job offers. As also discussed last Thursday, and very similar, the Australian merit-based immigration system requires the spouse to submit against the defined categories to determine her value, and those overall would be added to the applicant's overall points total. All in all, this individual scored 70 out of 90 on the points-based evaluation, and that those individuals that scored 60 points or higher out of 90 that were in the applicant pool at that time were selected. So if you're curious about how much does this cost? Well, the only real out-of-pocket expense was for the medical examination for him and his family, and that cost roughly $1,500. After receiving the all clear, he was issued an Australian permanent residency with a clear path to Australian citizenship that becomes available after 4 years of residency. Having now lived in Australia for the last 2.5 years, he says he has no regrets and that he's now a year and a half away from being an Australian citizen. He's now on his third job in Australia and said that each role has provided more exposure to technology, more responsibility, and better compensation. Overall, his family's felt welcomed and accepted since the day that they stepped off the plane, and that universal health care for his entire family has been another huge benefit. So, what's interesting about this journey is that he shared with me stories of four others that he knows that took the same path to Australia, as well as two others that have gone to Canada. And all six of these other individuals have done so since 2017. And the reason that they all decided to leave the US, well, in no particular order, the green card backlog, the uncertainty of living and working in the US under H1B, including restrictions around change of employer, anxiety and fear around international travel, and discrimination of being made to feel as though they were second class citizens. As we've been discussing on this channel, we cannot allow highly skilled immigrants who are currently working in the US or those looking to come to the US to work here consider other options outside of the US. If we allow the best of the best working in the US to migrate to Australia or Canada or really anywhere else, we risk losing economic growth, creating new jobs, and the formation of technical advances such as Zoom that were built on the back of high-skilled immigrants. We just can't let this happen. We need to continue to retain the high-skilled immigrants currently living and working in the US. We need to continue to attract the world's best and brightest highly skilled resources here to the US. We need to make sure that more new jobs are created here in the US and that are not being outsourced. And last, it really comes down to we need to make sure we don't lose valuable resources like my friend who left for Australia. So I'm curious if any of you out there have considered leaving the US and if you've reviewed and researched what your options are. Leave me a comment below. I'd love to hear what your findings are. Or for any of you who may be watching this outside of the US and decided to leave on your own merit, what was the reasoning behind that? Leave me a comment below. Really like to hear from you. Just wanted to thank you if you've made it all the way to the end of this video. I just really appreciate you taking the time to watch my content and make it all the way to the end. It helps me and it helps support this channel. As always, if you haven't already, please like this video. Please subscribe to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube. And please click the bell for notifications. For the full post on why my friend left the H1B life here in the US for the merit-based immigration system in Australia, please check out the H1BGuy.com. The H1B Guy, your global source for all things H1B.